Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Young, and I'm a religious investigator. In this episode, I wanted to talk about hearing the voice of God because I had an experience, which I'm about to tell you about, that I really wanted to research and look up hearing the voice of God. And all the pages that I found were talking about the internal voice that one hears when God is speaking to their mind and to their heart. I wanted to find out about the audible voice of God because the voice that I heard was audible. It wasn't internal, it was an audible voice. And I had a hard time and really could not find anything about the voice of God. And if I did, it was vague and it didn't tell the person's personal story. It just basically told you about it in general terms, but nothing too definite. So I wanted to tell my experience and share it with everyone. Well, I graduated college in 2005 in Livingston, New Jersey, like I said in a previous video. Um, and I had received a lump sum of money after I finished college. And I used that to buy a car and get some suits and go off into the workforce. And I was going to work by day and trying to party and hang out by night. And I got a chance to hang out way too much, party too much, knew the wrong people, was in the wrong circles. And it had gotten to the point where I had been indulging in what I wanted to do so much that my willpower had kind of waned. It was like my ability to say no and to put structure in my life had dwindled away with every opportunity that I took to do what I wanted to do. And my body was it was taking its toll on my body, and my health was getting really bad. But I was in this fog and this haze from doing the wrong thing so frequently that I wasn't really aware of what my body was trying to tell me. And I went to sleep one night and I had a dream. Now, my mother had passed in 91 and it had been 18 years since she had lived on the earth. And I was asleep one night and had a dream, and she came up to me in a dream. And it was a surreal dream where it was in dream state, which I knew, but it was also had real meaning. So it was a vivid dream where I was going to remember, and it had a purpose for being there. And in dream state, you know when a dream is supposed to be remembered. It's there and it's cemented. Well, she came up to me in a dream and she was like, "Baby, you got to keep going on. You got to keep going." And she gave me a hug. And she said, "Wait here." She turned around, and as she floated out of the room, I woke up in the bed. And when I woke up, I immediately sat up in the bed, and I'm in the dark room and I'm looking around. And I can still feel her arms around me in a hug. And the entire room smelled like perfume, and it was a very potent perfume. And it just lingered in the room. And shortly after that, I left and moved to Florida with my family. And I think it was in the early part of 2007. I had already published my first book, which was The Kingdom of Eternity. And I had published it and thought I had a good contract, but it turned out it really wasn't. So I had just, finished college. The book was published. I was feeling really, good and accomplished for the things I had done. But still was still living and partying in a way that was not helping me at all. It was hurting me. So I had gotten to a relationship, and the relationship eventually ended. Maybe because of my priorities, too many bad habits, and wasn't focused on what I needed to be focused on. Um, I found out that I had health issues that needed to be taken care of, and kind of it just felt like to me everything was piling on top of each other. One bad event after one bad event, it just kept coming. So I received the check that I thought was my royalty statement for the months of book sales that I was doing. And it came back that whoever it was, however they got my information, I was hit with a scam by one of those companies or one of those people that send you a check and want you to send the proceeds to them and all of this. Well, it came back to the check that I had received that I thought was a royalties check, turned out not to be. So all of these things started to culminate, and they all came together on one day. It was April of 2007. So the information about my health it was going down. That came on to the April of 2007. The same day, I received paperwork from the sheriff's office about the check that was supposed to be a royalty check that wasn't so. So after that, I went into a really bad depression. 4 to 6 months of just laying in the bed, just completely lethargic. No, didn't want to be bothered with anyone or anything. And then I was sitting in the room one night with the light off. I came in the room, sat down on the bed, didn't even bother to turn the light on because I was just so depressed. And I heard a voice in my ear, and it was in this ear, and it whispered in my ear, and it was like, get on your knees and pray. And I was just sitting there mulling over what my thoughts were, all these depressing thoughts. And so I just disregarded it. And it came to me again and said, get on your knees and pray. And I can remember that the sun had gone down, and there was a street light behind the window outside of the window in the bedroom. And the lights were shining through the blinds on the ground, on the floor of the room. So I got down on my knees and I was praying. And I was confessing to the Lord, my sins and what, I felt was getting ready to happen. I said, that I feel like I'm getting ready to die. And that, for the life that I live, I know I deserve death. But I do not want to be away from you for an eternity. So please let me know if there's anything I can do to get right with you. I prayed and asked in Jesus' name, and ended my prayer. I got into bed and I went to sleep. Fell off to sleep pretty quickly. And I woke up the next morning around 5 a.m. The sun hadn't even gotten up yet. And when I opened my eyes, I heard this voice. It was a booming voice in the room. And it sounded like the frequency of two voices speaking at the same time, but it was booming. And it said, "You're marvelous." And it was so loud that I sat up in the bed. And when I sat up in the bed, I heard this voice, and that's the only thing it said was, "You're marvelous." So I knew it was the answer to the prayer that I had given the night before. Because the prayer I had given the night before was basically saying, "Lord, let me know if there's anything I need to do so that I am not away from you for eternity." So after this voice said, "You're marvelous," I was on a spiritual high because, I knew that I still had a place in God's kingdom, which is very, very important to me and should be to everybody. But the following night, I went to sleep. But I had been, over this whole period of time, going to the library, and they allow you to check out 30 books at a time. I was feeling like I was at the brink of death, so I was really running to the Lord and trying to find him. So I was checking out 30 books and reading 30 books a week on anything that had to do with God and religion. I was just consuming as much as I could. And I do remember from my studies that they said that when the Lord comes to give you a word, the devil will come to try to steal it. So when I heard the voice of God in the room, or the voice of an archangel in the room sent by God, I knew what was coming. So this voice, after it came to me the following night, I was in sleep. And in sleep, it was black and a gray. It was like a grayish fog everywhere, where it was very dense. I could not hardly see. But as I squinted my eyes in my sleep to look at what was in front of me in this dream, there was an old man there who looked like a monk with a brown robe and the gray beard. But he was sitting there. When the smoke started to dissipate, he was staring right at me. And I'm looking at him really closely to see who this is. And as I'm looking at him, I see the smallest two horns that look like old ivory tusk from an elephant. They were really they were only about this tall. They curved back and they looked like old ivory. And I realized who it was, and I flinched at him like this because I recognized who it was. And he immediately ran at me. And as he ran at me, it was almost like I woke up. And when I woke up in the room, I was convulsing in the bed, just like shaking, like violently shaking on the bed. And after whatever that was let go of me, I wish I knew who it was, I sat up in the bed, and immediately my first reaction was to start laughing, because I knew that God had spoken to me the night before, because the devil came and tried to take it away. So the things that you hear about in the Bible are very much true. They're very much true, because God planted a seed and the devil came to try to rip it out. And God gave me in dreams to be able to see him. So I expressed my disgust with him, and that's why he lunged and attacked at me. But I just wanted to know, let you know that. And then there was still me trying to get rid of these bad habits after the devil had come to me and after God had spoken to me. And I kept trying to have my cake and eat it too. And eventually it came to a point where I said, I give up. I can't do it anymore. So I left all my worldly possessions and went walking down the street. I was going to just disappear from everyone and everything and just try to start all over. And I was praying to God as I was walking down the sidewalk, and I'll never forget. And I was like, God, I know you probably don't want to hear from me because of the chances and the things that you have done for me. And I still have not lived up to what you want. I was like, but Lord, I can't go back to where I was. So if you can hear me, please help me. And as I was walking down the street in broad daylight, I seen this whirlwind beside me on the sidewalk as I was walking. And the leaves were in it, like leaves were dancing around as it was spiraling up beside me. And I'm walking. So I find a location where I say, okay, I'm going to live out on the street with everyone else. This is where it's going to be. Found a spot. And there happened to be a young man and a young woman that were a couple that were living out there. And I asked them, I said, well, where did you get the cardboard box you're living on? Because, I need one too. So they told me where it was. I got one and brought it back and set up my box next to theirs. And they said, you need to go talk to this guy over here because he will buy you a bus ticket back to wherever you need to go. So I went over there, but the gentleman that I was looking for was not there. So I came out of the place looking for him and met this gentleman and told him about my situation and what was going on and how I could not go back to the life that I had. And he picked me up and took me to a place where I could stay for the night. And he said he would see what he can do about getting me transportation out of here so that I can begin to rebuild my life. And so I went to stay at this place for an evening. And in the morning around 7 a.m., I heard a voice over intercom call me, Anthony, come up to the front. So I came up to the front and he was like, come on, let's go. So I got in the truck with him and went to grabbed my belongings and dropped me off at the bus station. And when I'm in the bus station, I walk into the bus station and there's a gentleman standing at the counter where you get your tickets at. He immediately looks at me and walks straight over to me. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is an angel sent by God to confirm what he has already done. So I had already known from the books and the things that I've read how God will try to reach his children. So when he saw me, he immediately walked over to me. I knew who he was. And so when he came over to me, he was talking to me about how I had to go back and face the things that I had done and correct what was wrong in my life, and how he was on his way to California to do the same thing. And he told me, he said, be careful and watch out because there's something out there trying to destroy you. And I don't think he wanted to say it was the evil one because he didn't want to upset me or worry me, but I already knew that there was a spiritual battle going on with me that was really taking hold. And I had to really be careful because there was a presence out there trying to destroy me. So he went to get off the bus and he said, okay, take care of yourself. And he walked around the front of the bus to leave. Well, I came off the bus like one or two people after him. And when I went around the corner to see where he was nowhere to be found. He was not in the bus station. He was not outside. He had just disappeared, which confirmed what I had already knew. But ever since then, I know that the things that you read about how God contacts people is true. If you go to him with an honest heart and you fully repent of the things you've done and admit that you're a sinner, you can be saved. So the voice of God, I wanted to express that to other people because you have an internal voice and there's also an audible voice of God. And so I wanted to share my story with you. Again, my name is Anthony Young and this is Religious Investigations. And I also wanted to tell you to check out my Christian fiction book or get it for a family member or a child in your family. It's called From Death to Immortality. It's on Amazon.com. Again, my name is Anthony Young. I also have a book called The Epic of Eternity, which is also on Amazon.com. You can contact me or ask me to talk about any topic or just comment on my YouTube page. Any videos labeled Lyrical Way, which is all one word, LYRICALWAY, all at the bottom of the screen. And you can contact me directly at anthonyLyoung@hotmail.com. And I look forward to talking to you again. Goodbye.